The virtual Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series has visited 4 tracks so far this season, from the quaint curves of Summit Point to the destructive bumps of Sebring Raceway. It's been an all-out brawl so far in the Mustang category, with Andrew Pelota, Jeff Jacobs, Paul Gibson, and Kyle Herbst trading blows. DJ Alessandrini has swept the season thus far in the MX-5, but Ken Hausiel is close behind. For Race 5, we head to the Finger Lakes region of Upstate New York and Watkins Glen. This 14-turn course is known as the superspeedway of road courses, and that means a lot of full throttle action today. The sun will streak across the sky as we take advantage of the new day-to-night transition mode here in iRacing, and we'll make a morning start after qualifying here right now. Finian, this is an awesome new update. We got the sun across the sky now. We're going to have time changing, and right now we're qualifying for race number 5 in the Mustang category only right now. Split qualifying, 15 minutes for each, with the Mustangs running right now.
Yeah, you can see too as you look down to the track, you can notice that visually the track just looks a lot brighter in this lighting compared to the static one we had earlier, just due to the sun being in a more realistic position. It makes the track look a lot better considering how old it is, and man, does it look pretty. And these guys are going to take also advantages, and a little bit of a new thing. It shouldn't be too much of a factor here this time, as it's only a 30-minute race, so the day changing you're not going to really notice it much, but definitely next week with the 2.4 at Daytona is going to be a factor.
Absolutely. So right now we have cars on track. Chip Disharoon in the number 75 Mustang here this week, training cars from the MX-5 class he was racing in prior to this race. Point standings updates, Finian. Right now, DJ Alessandrini running away with it in the MX-5 category, but Mustang's a little bit closer.
Yeah, right now in the Mustangs, Andrew Pelota is currently the leader, but 17 points behind is Jeff Jacobs. Then 21 points behind the leader is Forrest Landy, so he's very close in third. In fourth, Kyle Herbst, and in fifth, Paul Gibson. So that's your top 5 there. And switching on to the Mazdas, DJ Alessandrini, like you were talking about earlier, has been dominating this season so far. He currently has pretty much a full race lead and then some over second place Kenneth Hausiel. In third, we have Paul Darling. In fourth, Chip Disharoon. And in fifth, Richard Spicer.
And Chip's going to fall down a couple spots in the MX-5 category today because he's racing in the Mustangs. But Finian, let's go on board here. Let's go with Dave Fitzgerald here, the number 91 car, and he's finishing up a lap right here. But I want to ride on board a lap around Watkins Glen. This racetrack with these cars is extremely fast. This is probably the fastest track we're going to go to, other than Daytona next week. Again, that's a 2.4-hour race coming up next week, and we'll have 4 commentators in the booth. And I believe, if I've talked with Dave the right way, I believe I'll be in a vehicle next week for at least part of the race. But here's Dave Fitzgerald right now. We're going to ride on board here. And we're coming out of the final corner, turn number 14, heading onto the long front straightaway. Several straightaways here at Watkins Glen, all of them full throttle for a long time, up into 5th gear. You see, whoa, car in the wall there. But as we come off the last corner, we're heading down the front straightaway, over 120 to 130 miles an hour for the Mustang as we get down to turn number 1, known as the 90. This is a 90-degree corner, 6 to 12 degrees of banking here. And we come up off the corner onto some rumble strips there. Track your car out real wide. The MX-5s will be up and over that curb all night tonight. Now let's climb the S's. 110 feet of elevation change here through turns 2, 3, and 4. And this is a blind corner, very tricky to run side by side through here. So drivers will be looking to get themselves single file as quickly as possible. Now to the prime overtaking spot here after a long back straightaway. 1,800 feet, I believe, is the correct footage here for the back straight. Now we're heading down into the bus stop chicane. This is a great overtaking spot. You got to be really aggressive on the curbs. You see Fitzgerald hopping them there. This can upset the cars if you get them too sideways. You got to keep the car nice and straight. Now we head to turn 5 in the NASCAR course, or turn 9 if you go by the old numbers. But we're heading through the carousel now, about 100 miles an hour down here. And then we enter the boot section, a sharp left-hander. This is probably one of the trickiest corners on the racetrack to get right. Down to the inside curb, track out. And we'll head down to the toe of the boot. You can see on the track map there, the number 91 heading towards the toe. Uphill here, aiding the brakes as we work our way through this corner. Down to about 65 to 70 miles an hour. Power up. This is a 3rd gear corner. Use that torque in the big old Mustang V8. Power yourself onto this back straight. Heading to turn number 8. This is a very tight corner. One of the slowest on the racetrack, and it's a lot tighter than it seems here at the heel of the boot. So a lot of drivers get caught out and run wide on exit, but Fitzgerald goes through there nicely. Waiting on throttle, gets back on it. A little bit tight on exit there for Fitzgerald. Now we head back up to what is the Achilles heel for most people at the racetrack. This is a very flat corner. And we head back up onto the NASCAR circuit. Now to turns 13 and 14, or 6 and 7 if you count them the NASCAR way. Left-hander. This is almost full throttle in the Miatas. Maybe just a brake throttle for a second. And then to the last corner here. This is another 4th gear corner. Get right down to the curb and exit, and that is a lap of Watkins Glen. Thank you. This is one of my favorite racetracks to drive at here, Finian. It's our home track, located about an hour and a half away from here, so we're very familiar with the layout of this place, and it's a blast to race on in pretty much any car.
Yeah, really, and like you're talking about, very fast car. This is one of the few tracks that really these cars can go full peg, other than like you're saying Daytona, where they can really get to their top speed. Just to how fast and flowing this track is. There's not that many slow corners. The slowest corner probably being probably in the boot.
Yeah, I would probably say the exit of the boot's the slowest corner, about 55 to 60 miles an hour, so pretty slow through there. Let's ride aboard the right front or not.
I don't know.
I guess the build changed the cameras there a little bit, but I want to take a look at the brakes of this number 39 car here, Finney, if we could get a good look at them. They were glowing down into turn 1, so Alan Claffey using a ton of brakes to get this car around, and we're going to see those brakes get real hot here tonight. The back straightaway, a good place to cool them, though.
Yeah, definitely so. This place here, you're a lot less aggressive on it, because typically less braking that you have to use. You don't have to go to very slow speed. You can really maintain a lot of momentum through these corners.
Now here's the cool part about the update, the whole day-to-night transition. We'll be starting the race in the morning, so we won't get to the night. But let's take a look at our conditions here, Finney, and they're going to be changing all day here. Partly cloudy conditions at the moment, 98 degrees on the racetrack, but that depends on where the shadows are and where the sun is moving. So that track temp is going to change quite a bit throughout this race, even changing from corner to corner. So drivers will have to be on their stuff tonight in order to find the grippiest way around this racetrack.
Yeah, and also, yeah, notably another change too that I added with this is that clouds can actually end up blocking the sun. So that you could have some parts of the track being lit in sunlight and some in cloud cover. So that could definitely change up over time. That can change up how the car drives. And also another this is more of a funny thing too. We talked about this as well. Is the fact that with the now non-static skybox and shadows and everything, that you can't use shadows as your brake markers.
Yeah, that's a big deal, though. I mean, a lot of these racetracks now, Watkins Glen has brake markers in a lot of the areas you'd expect them, but some tracks don't have braking markers.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that iRacers have become accustomed to using shadows as their braking marker. Now, you remove all that, they're moving every single lap. Yeah. You're going to outbrake yourself if you continue to use those old markers. They might not even be there because the sun has changed position so much and is now accurate to not only the time of day, but also the date of the year. So winter dates will have a less long daytime and summer dates will have a longer daytime. I'm actually sure what date it is here within iRacing.
From the screenshot I saw on the Discord, I believe it's during the summer because the sunrise was at like 5 and I think sunset was at 8, so yeah. I'd assume that's the summer that we're racing at here.
But Jeff Jacobs up to 4th right now in that number 38 car. Andrew Pelota has fallen to 3rd. Greg Obadia and Paul Gibson 2nd and 1st on the grid respectively. About 5 minutes remaining in the Mustang qualifying, then we'll let the MX-5s get out there and rip around for a little bit.
Yeah, this change was, I think, definitely a good change for these guys. So the reason for this change was, I'm guessing, it was pretty obvious. The fact that the Miatas would get in the way of the Mustangs, and same the other way around.
Yeah.
So this is just really to get these guys to being able to get clean laps and not having to drive through traffic.
This is probably the track that we've had the most speed discrepancy at so far between the fast cars and the slow cars. So what that means is the Mustangs are carrying probably 30 miles an hour more straightaway speed than the MX-5s, which ends up being about 7 to 10 seconds of a difference in lap time. So it's probably the biggest gap we've seen. In the past, it was only about 2 to 3 seconds. And this track is shorter than some of the ones that we've gone to so far, VIR included. So Watkins Glen, a lot of straightaways here. It really, really favors very heavy, big, fast cars, the Mustang being that.
Yeah, it definitely favors cars that can carry or just have a higher top speed because of the so much on throttle time here.
Working our way down into the boot. Again, this is a very tricky corner to set your car up for here, Finney. And you got to kind of enter from the middle of the racetrack. You don't want to be all the way to driver's right when you get down there. Otherwise, you'll miss the apex. So Jeff Jacobs navigating it expertly as we continue to roll through here. Your pole sitter, Paul Gibson, is now working his way to that corner. And you'll see right here, he's taking more of a middle-of-the-road approach to the corner here. Down to the apex. He's on a cool-down lap.
I was going to say, he's only very slow, so yeah, definitely just pacing around here. And I mean, he doesn't really have much else to go for. He's got the lead by a decent amount. He's got 1/10 of a second over, I was just going to say, Andrew Pelota, but now Chip Disharoon jumps all the way up. Now 59 thousandths of a second behind Paul Gibson.
Yeah, Dave Fitzgerald has been running around for quite some time here. Has not yet set a lap, so he's been off track a couple times and has not been able to lay down a lap time. So unfortunately, Fitzgerald's got to get a lap in quick, or he's going to run out of time and be starting from the rear of the field.
Yeah, these guys got about 3 more minutes to put a time down before the Miatas are allowed on the track. And these guys have to come off, so you have to be on your outlap now. or actually like about halfway through your outlap before. Otherwise, you're going to be caught out of this.
Yeah. Following Andrew Pelota in that number 96, maybe trying to get a slipstream.
Yeah,
but
that's a smart move. That's a smart move.
And it's very effective here. More so in the MX-5s than the Mustangs. The Mustangs, you can really only use a slipstream on the main back straightaway, but it doesn't hurt for sure.
Yeah, and you have to be relatively close as well. But again, if you can get it, if you can time it right, it's definitely going to help you out.
So now heading our way to the last couple of corners. This is a very tricky corner here. Finding almost flat in the Mustangs, very flat in the MX-5, but there's not a lot of track out there. You'll get in the grass if you're too wide.
And the funny thing, not funny thing, but the thing about that corner as well is that it's kind of hard to judge where you put the throttle down, because you put the throttle down way before you actually know where you're going to end up. Where you can't really see where you're going to end up until you actually get there. And if you start putting a wheel out there, it could be very dangerous, especially in the Mustangs. If you get a wheel out, we've seen in the past too, guys dropping a wheel in the grass and they spin out. So that's one of the things guys got to be careful for.
Yeah, Fitzgerald just ran wide out of turn 1, was able to keep it on track to avoid the 1X that would invalidate his lap, but it's going to be a slow turn 1 for that number 91. Still doesn't have a time on the board yet, so he's going to have to make this lap count if he wants a shot at it.
Yeah, ran a 2:10 last time by, so I'm guessing now he's on his flyer, trying to get that lap down. He's gonna make it count now too, so because otherwise he cannot go out there again after this.
So you notice the curbs there in the bus stop chicane. Drivers are going to be in there tonight acting like those don't even exist. Both these cars, the Mustang and the Miata, take curbs very, very well, and the fastest way around is to jump straight over them.
Yeah, especially considering how flat they are too. You can pretty much just drive over them.
Not anymore, but in the sim they are, so they're lucky there. But yeah, very wide, flat curbs here at Watkins Glen allows drivers to use them. The only one that's really a problem, I would say, is the turn 1 rumble strip on corner exit. In the Miata especially, it can send your car pretty sideways if you jump it in the wrong spot.
Yeah, so you got to be careful. Really, either which way you drive this track, and then we're looking at the 48 of James Saffola.
We'll roll with it. Think with it, it's good.
No, yeah.
I don't have the document up to check, so he'll correct us.
Sounds right. So he's currently in 12th. He's 1.8 seconds behind the leader, trying to improve his time.
Chris Hart with the number 36. Haven't seen him up near the front lately, but he's certainly trying. He's out there right now. His best time is a 2:07.6, but that's about 3 seconds off of Paul Gibson's pole pace. Also
seeing that Khalil Nachirbov is back this week, was not at VIR. He's currently running in 10th. In the 19. And, he's going to be in pit road, so I think he's going to call it a day done at the moment. And the clock's ticking down for these drivers, and a few who are still... Actually, let's see where Dave Fitzgerald is now. He should be coming across the line.
And jumps up. Looks like he'll be P11. And he'll cross the line. It'll be at least a qualifying effort. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick here, Finian, so you can take over. We had a tight night here tonight, so you can take over the controls for a little bit.
All right, so as Kyle goes to take a bathroom break, and you see the clock there, just going to tick to 15 minutes, and I believe these guys are going to have to pull off the track at some point. I'm not sure if they're allowed to finish their lap if they started it. Again, new format here, and actually, by the looks of it, I can already see that some Mazdas are rolling out on the track. Trying to find where there we go. Lost the cursor there for a minute. So we're seeing the Mazdas starting to make their way down pit road. So they're allowed to start their lap, and there you see Kenneth Hausil looking for a good finish here. There we go. There's the button. He's currently again working through this traffic here. And we can see on board here he's got a few Mazdas ahead of him, so it could potentially mess up his lap, or it could potentially help him again. It's kind of hard to stay in the draft here because it'll help you on the straightaways. Once you get into the corner, it can actually be kind of a hindrance, especially if you're faster than the guy in front of you. So zoom back out to T-Bone. There you see the full field of Mazdas, or not full field, almost full field of Mazdas heading down to the bus stop. And I'm trying to see who's the leader of these guys. I have to look around a bit. These guys are not in order. I think DJ Alessandrini is in front of them, which is actually very ironic considering he's leading the points right now. There you see some guys kind of swapping some position, everyone trying to get to the front of this chain. And Alessandrini leading these guys down, and he actually goes off the track a little bit there. And the Mazdas, most of them have pulled off the track or are pulling off the track at the moment, so now everything falls into the hands of the Mazdas. And we'll see them all come around in a big pack, ready to take the green flag. Hey, Kyle.
We're real professionals here. All right, now we're back. The Miatas are out on track. It looks like Alessandrini out and ready to go in that number 191.
Yeah, I said it's kind of ironic that he's leading the Mazdas in qualifying as he's leading them in points. So he's going to lead them down to the green flag here.
And again, on the left-hand side of the screen is the ticker, and all the cars lit up in blue are the MX-5. See Alessandrini pulling over here.
I wonder if this is to... interesting choice.
Well, open qualifying. Let's use that slipstream here, Finian. So maybe DJ is planning this out. Getting with, where's Ken Hausil? Is he out on track yet? Yes, he is. I bet you he's going to ride right alongside Ken and get a slipstream. Very smart planning on the 191's part.
Yeah, even Hausil, I think, was a little bit further up the running order of these guys. So he also dropped back a bit.
Coming back to the green flag here for MX-5 qualifying here at Watkins Glen. Remember, a 30-minute sprint race here tonight, Finian. That's the shortest race that we've done, I believe, or tied with...
Yeah, I mean, and if you do the math at home... These guys are only going to do about 15 laps here, which is ridiculous when you think about it. That's a very short race.
It's a short race, and that means that these guys are going to be very aggressive from the outset. There's no waiting around here. If you start near the rear of the field in the MX-5s or Mustangs, we have 18 Mustangs and just about as many MX-5s, so you're going to be driving real hard if you start near the back. See Kenneth Hausil working his way to the top of the S's now, just over 120 miles an hour by the end of the straightaway here. And then through the bus stop chicane, which is one of my favorite parts of the racetrack.
You see, I'm not sure who just pulled off the track, but you see Hausil really on the binders now, trying to get a lap down. Very nice, nicely through the bus stop.
Yeah, the on-throttle time of the MX-5s around Watkins Glen is pretty absurd. You spend probably 80 to 90% of the lap flat to the floor, and in pretty much only gears 4 and 5. But there might be one corner or two where you want to downshift to third, but Hausil working his way down into turn 8 at the moment. DJ Alessandrini behind him, out of the draft range for now. 11 minutes remaining in qualifying. Oh, hey, Dominic, I didn't even see you there. How are you doing, buddy? I'm not sure.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great. Oh, okay. Well, it's the mic was doing that last week, too. It'll sort itself out. Well, Dominic, today we are at Watkins Glen International. This is our home track. We know quite a bit about this place, and it's one of my favorites to drive around in pretty much any car. But this week, we're in the Mustangs and MX-5s once again, and this is really just a slipstream track.
Hey, Kyle, you're absolutely right with that. And one of the big things about this track is that it's a particularly narrow surface. We were at VR last week, and there were parts, as we mentioned, on the back streets there where the track really wide. You really have to follow through, and mainly into the inner loop and outer loop is where you can probably get the best draft in order to try and make it pass. But again, once you get past the bus stop and down into the inner parts of this track, it really narrows up. So you're going to have to be creative with how you want to get around your competitor.
Absolutely. So again, Watkins Glen very, very fast. A lot of on-throttle time. We see right now the number 98 of Sam Scott working around. I believe that is the 195 of John Sainz there. And up through the top of the S's now. And Richard Spicer in the 56, currently third on the charts here, finishing with a 2:11.6. So the best MX-5 lap time is a 2:10.3, which is just about 6 seconds off the Mustang category, Finian. So again, pretty big gaps between the Mustang and the MX-5 this week, just due to all the straightaways.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, just due to the straightaways, and also notably too, DJ Alessandrini half a second slower than Hausil.
I believe Hausil might have had a slipstream the last time, and actually you can see him just up the road here, behind the number 7 of Zach Rubin. So Hausil probably got a slipstream there, Finian. That's well over a half a second worth of time here on Watkins Glen.
These guys really, and he's really going to need some good points the next 2 weeks. After this, points will...
See Alessandrini to run wide out of the corner. That'll be a... Oh, and he's parking it. I think he knows that he's going to have to come back in and give that another try there. Again, if you go off track, it invalidates your qualifying lap time here, Finian. And Alessandrini, I know he really wants this pole, but I personally like starting on the outside here. And I've explained this a couple times to you, Finian, but I like starting on the outside at Watkins Glen because turn 1 is a very easy place to get pinched. And I'd much rather be able to use that runoff room and go out real wide and be able to pass all the guys that are pinching each other down on the inside.
Only problem is it's kind of hard to time that. So
it's very hard to time it. It's a very tricky thing.
So I mean, if you could, and I would imagine he has Alessandrini, other than Husio, would have the speed to do that, to time that. to get him in second place. But definitely you want to be in the front, bro. You see Spicer get loose there.
Yeah, so actually, I don't know if, Dominic, you're aware of this, but there was a big update to iRacing yesterday that employed day-to-night transitions and dynamic skies. So now, within iRacing, we have clouds that move across the sky. They project shadows on the racetrack, and they move all in real time. And that's going to be a big change for these drivers, because in the simulated environment, Dominic, we've had drivers use shadows as braking zones, but those are now moving across the racetrack, and every single lap is different. So how do you adjust as a driver? Like, in the real world, if your favorite braking marker is moved, how do you adjust? What do you do differently inside that race car?
Well, Kyle, it's going to be a challenge for the drivers, and especially with a lot of these endurance races that drivers in real life do. You're going to really have to be able to learn the braking zones. As you mentioned, people using shadows as braking markers. So inside the car, you're going to have to be thinking about how to adjust from what you're used to. And it may take a little bit of time for you to get used to how to do it lap after lap, especially if you have a longer stint in the car. And so it's definitely going to be a learning experience for these drivers as they get used to that new feature for iRacing.
Yeah, so again, a very big feature release here. Again, let's take a look at the track temp here, Finian. Now it's 102. It was 98 when we first loaded into this here, Finian, and that is a 4-degree temperature swing, and we all know iRacing's tire model very sensitive to heat changes, so the drivers will be chasing the shadows all day looking for that grip, but it's partly cloudy out there, Finian. It's pretty cloudless, so the shadows might be few and far between, and these drivers will have to be creative looking for grip.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're going to want every ounce of it, because since this track is so fast, in nature, you're going to want as much grip to maintain that speed through the corners. So, and it is bright and sunny, as we've seen.
Now with TJ Alessandrini climbing the S's here, the Miata really struggles with the lack of torque up through the S's, and better in the slipstream, but all by yourself, that engine really bogs down, especially when you shift into 5th gear. Now he's up above 115 miles an hour onto the back straightaway. We'll watch his crash through the bus stop here, because that's what it's like every time. It's a controlled crash heading over these curbs. You're jumping him at well over 85 miles an hour.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too. You can just see, just by the way he's driving, you really have to just throw the car into the corner. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, really, it's a pretty nice camera there.
Ooh, look at the suspension. You can see the curbing working the suspension here, Finian, and these tires get to work out the suspension. It certainly does in the bus stop as well. We'll head back with him next lap and take a look as he heads through that high compression area.
Yeah, so what I was saying earlier is that, yeah, you really just, in this car, you have to throw the car into the corners and basically just turn as fast as possible and just try to make the car work with you rather than trying to roll it gently, especially in the bus stop, because that's where you're going to make the most speed out of it.
You see Alessandrini get real tight on corner exit. He'll keep it on course, but no curbing out there at the exit of the toe of the boot, so it makes it real tricky for these drivers to get the throttle down, and especially when getting the throttle down a half a second earlier is key to your performance around this fast racetrack.
And he has, again, half a second to make up to Havsil. He's got if he doesn't make it this time he's got about 2 or 3 more laps to put down after this time-wise.
Yeah,
so
about 5 minutes remaining left in this session before we grid up and get ready to go for 30 minutes here tonight. A sprint race by the standards we've been running lately, especially compared to VIR. That was a lengthy race last week, but resulted in some fantastic racing all the way down to the wire. But here tonight, going straight to the end.
I'm not gonna lie, I really didn't hear much about what you said. I'm too busy looking at the clouds. They look beautiful.
The clouds are gorgeous now. It's such an impressive graphical change, and I know the drivers aren't caring about that right now because they're focused on driving, but for us broadcasters... Oh, and also the new crowd. I bet you people didn't even notice that either. But the crowd system completely changed, and if you compare what we have here with what we had last week, it's a pretty major improvement. I want to ride on board that right front suspension cam as we head to the inner loop one more time and watch the compression that the suspension undergoes. And Dominic, as we do this here, I want you to let me know, with the curbing here at Watkins Glen, relatively flat except for the bus stop. So is there any reason to be gentle on the car when there's only one real spot that is aggressive on the suspension?
I think it is still really important to be able to be smooth on these curves, because even though the bus stop is really the only curbs that can really upset the car, I think basically if you get your curbing wrong, you could still send your car out of control. And then, of course, on this track, on the outside of the apexes, you have walls to meet you, unlike a lot of the runoff we've seen some of these other venues. So it's going to be important for, especially in these in the infield here, for the drivers to be able to keep a straight wheel and keep it on the track as best they can, and run over those curves, to gain speed, but not be too rough on them.
Absolutely. So we see now Paul Darling working his way up through the S's in that number 155 car. DJ Alessandrini did improve his time up to a 2:10.5, which puts him about 2.5 tenths off of Ken Hauseel's pace. But Hauseel last week was a little bit quicker than DJ Alessandrini, but Hauseel's mistake on pit road ended up putting him back in behind for the finish of that race.
And also, I want to just talk about points here for a second. So I was doing a little bit of math, and these guys do use Formula One points, style points for both classes, meaning that top 10 is get awarded points. Everyone else below that is awarded 0. So it's 25 for first, 18 for second, 15 for third, and it goes in a order somewhat like that towards 10th, which gets 1 point. So doing the math, as long as Alessandrini makes sure he finishes at least second or even third, really, he should be able to win mathematically based off of just the points alone. Now, Hauseel can get some points, bonus points. You get a bonus point for running, finish for qualifying first, qualifying on pole for each class, fastest lap, and charging up through the field. So I don't really think Hauseel will probably get charging up through the field, but has a chance of getting pole, especially here. Right now he's sitting on pole and fastest lap during the race. So every point's going to matter. So if Hauseel can get at least finish in first, and if Alessandrini finishes in third for the next 3 races, and Hauseel finishes in first, gets some few bonus points here and there, he can end up winning the championship. So it's going to be very close.
I'm glad you know what you're talking about with the points, because that was over my head. I just like calling the stuff on track. All the off-track stuff and the points is over my head. But you see Robert Porter in the number 136 now heading through the bus stop chicane, up and over the curbs. You see the Miata reacts a little bit more aggressively to them because it's a little bit lighter body. The Mustang acts like a whale. It just absorbs every little bit of impact. The Miata just a little bit more dynamic up and over those bumps.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the newer Miata, a lot more, just a lot more smooth of a car. You can really do a lot more with it compared to its older brother, I guess.
It's definitely more oversteer prone, which is good for pointing the car, getting the car rotated center off, but it also means that if you hit the curb the wrong way, this car will spin like a top, so you have to be real careful. It does react nicely to slides, though, very easy to catch in those situations. So 45 seconds left in qualifying here. Drivers will be able to finish up their laps.
I'm interested in seeing where Alessandrini was. He wasn't on the track. He's going to be kind of close.
He'll get there. He'll get one more opportunity, but no slipstream like Ken Hauseel had. I wonder where Hauseel is doing. He's going to be just out of the slipstream from a car up ahead as well, so he'll try to improve his time to defend from Alessandrini.
So we'll watch Alessandrini here. He's going to come out of the final corner. 20 seconds still left to get to the line, so he's going to be good.
We'll ride on the onboard cam here in the roll bar and take a look at what it's like to drive around here at a Mazda. Down through turn 1. Misses the apex there just a little bit. He's going to go out way wide up over the curbs here, Finian. And in a slow car like this, going wide in turn 1 is sometimes actually faster than keeping on the racetrack. I know we had this discussion on Monday night with the IndyCar series. Faster cars in turn 1, it's better to just keep it on the course. Slower cars, you can get a little bit of a speed advantage by going wide.
But that particular way he went wide, it looked a little bit on the slow side to me.
Yeah.
He did have a kind of awkward angle. So
I do think that time it wasn't intentional, and he just slid wide and was off the pace because of that. Now you hear him clip the grass on the left through the bus stop now, nice and smooth, and gets through here very nicely. And then down through the carousel. Very fast corner, 12 degrees of banking. Out over the exit curve.
And into the boot he goes. And again, he's got to beat that time of Hauseel. He's 2 tenths behind at the moment. And doesn't, again, when we pointed out too, he doesn't have any slipstream to help him for this lap. So he's completely on his own. It's only up to his driving ability.
Down into the toe of the boot, you hear him really revving out. It probably was 4th gear that he was stuck in there. Well, now we'll come through the toe of the boot, get back on the power. Much better exit this time for this lap. And then we head down to the heel of the boot. Down on the brakes. Really jammed on the binders there to get it turned. And he'll exit out, clip that curb on the left, and then head to the flattest, most off-camber corner in the history of the world, in my opinion. But it's a very tricky corner to get right. And it's a lot of fun when you do hit it right.
a lot of fun when you do hit it right, but 90% of the time you're usually hitting it wrong and want to throw that corner off out of a window.
Yeah, the Monday night IndyCar series for the 3-wide Triple Crown that raced here, they had a lot of trouble with that corner, getting the power down in those fast Indy cars. But here tonight, you can pretty much plant the throttle around everywhere in both these cars, and you'll be just fine. Out of the final corner, DJ Alessandrini rides the curb out wide, right up to the wall, comes across the start-finish line. Let's see what lap time he runs. He had 2 tenths to make up on Ken House-Seal. Does he do it?
No, he does not.
No, slower that time. So just a minute for people to complete the laps that they started. So Richard Spicer, the only one, well, actually Alessandrini is the only one left on course. And he'll probably try to get around as much as he can, but he's not going to make it back to the line.
Yeah, so that's going to finish out qualifying here for these guys. Paul Gibson's going to be on pole for the Mustangs, and Kenneth House-Seal will be on pole for the Miatas.
And we'll be back in just a moment with the start of the race. 30 minutes at Watkins Glen. We'll be back when they grid up and get ready to go for the pace lap. Stay with us. Welcome back live here to SimTV, ready to get gridded and going racing here at Watkins Glen for 30 minutes. And Finian, I'm so excited for this. It's going to be a slipstream fest in the MX-5s, but do you think anyone can touch Ken House-Seal and DJ Alessandrini?
Honestly, I think yes, and specifically because of that draft. I mean, we talked about it at VIR was pretty significant. Track 7 Point also was pretty significant. And if any place, if it's going to be significant anywhere else, it's got to be here. Other than Daytona, actually, but really here as well, because it's really a pretty good equalizer between a lot of these guys. So if you can stay up with them, I would say guys like Chip Disharoon would be able to stay with them. You have to see who else is going to be able to hang in, because Disharoon's been in some pretty good battles with House-Seal and Alessandrini. All
right, well, we're going to let the starting lineup roll across the bottom of your screen. And Dominic, I wanted to ask you another thing here. 30 minutes tonight at Watkins Glen. It's going to be a draft train, especially for the MX-5s, but what about the Mustangs? They seem a little bit less prone to the slipstream being effective than the MX-5s. So how do the Mustangs race tonight? Is it be aggressive right from the beginning, or is it kind of stay in line like the MX-5s will try?
So, Carl, I think the smart thing for the MX-5 drivers to do is to stay in line like their Mazda brethren will, and then at some point, I'd say probably 5 laps in, start to make moves and decide who you're going to be working with in order to give yourself the best possible result at the end. But as you said, I think that we're going to see more drafts come into play with the MX-5s than we will with the Mustangs, which is sort of the opposite of what we saw last week with VIR.
Absolutely. So the field is rolling off now down onto the front straightaway. Rough RT12 pace car will go around for 3.4 miles. Then it'll peel off and turn us loose here at Watkins Glen. The Mustangs are going to lead us off. You see the MX-5 field there at the back of the grid. So a couple drivers, Dave Fitzgerald included, they have a little ways to go here, Finian. 12th place starting spot for that number 91. And I'd say Watkins Glen, pretty easy place to pass. There's a couple of different passing zones. Really, anywhere in the boot is a great spot to pass, down into turn 1 and into the bus stop if you're brave. But, Finian, I want to ask you, where's your favorite spot around here to make a pass?
I think it's probably, I would say honestly, turn 1 in this configuration at least. I think turn 1's are pretty good because you get it set up from a straightaway. You get to just draft up to the guy and try to pull out last second. Get to the inside, make the pass work there. Another good place to make the pass is also in the bus stop and even the carousel too.
Absolutely. So if you'll notice here, Finian, that the conditions have changed. It's a little bit cloudier, a little bit mistier out there. And let's take a look at the track temperature. We're up to 104 degrees, so a little bit hotter overall, but partly cloudy conditions still. But there's a lot more shadow around the racetrack here because of probably a cloud that's hanging over the sun. So that's going to change how this track handles a little bit, especially in the spots that are more shadowed than others.
Yeah, and again, that track temperature now, especially, it's an average temperature. It's not so much the temperature all the ways around, so that's going to affect, again, especially considering how big this track is in the corner.
Well, you see, Don, on this end of the racetrack here, full sun.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's what this dynamic sky brings into this whole. It's a whole other level of racing now, Finian. Not only is the sun move across the sky, but the shadows, the clouds, changes everything about racing here within iRacing. So I'm really excited to see this in action. About 9 o'clock a.m. here in Sim, and we're getting ready to go racing here for 30 minutes at Watkins Glen. You see the rest of the field scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Well, I asked Finian, I asked you where your favorite passing position is here at Watkins Glen. Dominic, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Watkins Glen, but do you have a favorite passing zone here?
Yeah, I'd definitely say going into the bus stop is probably the best because you have the back straight there that allow you to get a really good slipstream. And then you still have to be careful going in there because due to the nature of the curbs, you can upset your car trying to make especially a late braking zone. So, but I think that, and partially due to the fact that you're going to have the track narrow up after that, so it's going to be tougher for your competitor once you get by them into the bus stop for them to have a response for you later in the lap.
Absolutely. So, Paul Gibson, you had to say something there, Finian?
I was going to ask, what's your favorite?
Oh, my favorite? Oh, I love the bus stop. That is, because here's the thing. You got to be real ballsy to make that work, Finian. You got to drive in real deep, use less brake. You got to jump those curbs. I love doing that. It's an amazing place to pass, but I think a solid seconds down in turn 1. You can get crossed over there pretty easily, though, so I'd still say the bus stop.
Yeah, so pretty common answers across the board between all of us.
Yeah, the bus stops, it's tricky to go in there side by side, so usually, as long as you have a nose ahead, the guy outside will back out. But towards the end of the race, I don't think we'll see people backing out. Pace car pulls off, Finian. 30 minutes here at Watkins Glen. The 31 of Paul Gibson leads the Mustang field down to the green flag. Here we go, racing in upstate New York.
Green flag's in the air here, and you already see some guys starting to fan out. They have to wait across the line, though, before they can go. And there you see, I think it's 43 of Landy to the inside.
Are we 4 wide down into the turn 1? Look like we're 4 wide down into turn 1, Finian. Side by side for the lead as the rest of the Mustang field makes their way through. So we're wide. We got cars crashing. The 96 of Pelota spins on corner exit. He's going to have minimal damage to that race car, but already carnage as the MX-5 field takes the green.
There you see the MX-5. There you see Alessandrini tuck in immediately behind Osceola as they come across the line ahead of the 7 of Zach Rubin as they head into turn 1.
Down into turn 1, you see nose to tail are the leaders.
And they got through pretty cleanly. It doesn't look like there's any carnage in the Miata class.
Oh, we got lots of carnage in the Mustang. Whoa, huge pile up in the S's. Several cars destroyed.
Oh, wait, and where's the...
And the track is blocked here, Finian. The MX-5 field is coming at high speed right through the middle of the field. And Alessandrini, does he make it through? He does, but there's an MX-5 in the wall and huge carnage up to the top of the S's. The whole field.
And they are 3 and 4 wide heading towards the bus stop.
3, 4 wide, 3 deep, through down to the bus stop chicane here, Finian. This is absolute carnage at the beginning of this race. We got Mustangs crazily damaged as we work our way through the chicane for the first time. Cars off the racetrack, trying to get back on course.
And I gotta say, that really helped out Kenneth Househeel now, who's driving up through the field. No problem. Everyone else got caught up in that.
Everyone indeed. Pelota got through it somehow, Finian, but we have lots of cars torn up in that wreck. We're going to have to go back and take a look. Does Khalil Tierboff has lots of damage. Kyle Herbst is destroyed. That'll be the end of his night. And Louis Alessi also damaged. He's got engine carnage there. Up and ahead of these guys. Paul Gibson now out in front by 1.6 seconds, but we have to go back and take a look at this wreck. Wow, crazy accident here. I was shocked that it was that big.
That was probably one of the biggest accidents I've ever seen at Watkins Glen, and definitely from GT3. Wow!
Okay, here we go. Here's a look up above. It started, with the blue and red car. Was that one of the Alessis? Oh, the whole track just completely blocked.
Complete traffic jam for these guys.
Let's take another quick look. We don't want to spend too much time on this with things happening live. I believe, it wasn't Jacobs. It was not Claffey. Disharoon also went around pretty early here. Here's another look.
And he was fighting with,
Disharoon got turned.
Yeah.
In front of the field, and the whole rest of them stack up. That's why they're crashed there.
Wow.
So the 38 of Jeff Jacobs and the 83 car of Dennis Barrett were the ones that started the major pile up through here. We'll get one more look at it. So the Disharoon goes off the bumper, and then these two get together at the top of the S's, and it just Herbst runs right into the back of Disharoon, and the whole track gets blocked. And we're right on board Alessandrini coming up through here, Finian.
Yeah, and they can't see. You can't see anything. You cannot tell that anything happened. I'm sure people must have been saying on the radio that there's an accident there, but they have absolutely no clue what they're driving to. They see him go to the
no
right
smoke
side.
or anything. They get to the top of the field, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, you see Houseel got on the brakes, and somehow Alessandrini gets through that. Almost got involved, and there you see the 99, I think. I'm trying to figure out who that is. Or is that the 80? I can't tell who.
We got to head back live, but already almost more than half the Mustang field destroyed in the first corner wreck here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, the one who got a big piece of that in the Mazdas was the 99 of Elias Roman. So he's currently running in 5th. But yeah, the Mustang field already spread out a lot. You see Paul Gibson there leading over Greg Obadia in second place in the 66. In third, Stephen Ott in the 25, and then 10 seconds back to the 36 of Chris Harp.
Yeah, look at how Seal is running 9th overall right now here, Finian. He's almost 2 seconds up the road from Alessandrini.
Yeah, and the Miata field overtook about half of the Mustang field because they were all involved in that wreck. So big shakeup here at the start.
Absolutely a massive wreck to start out the race here. We're already 5 minutes through this here, Finian, but what a way to start it. Sam Scott, the number 98, down on pit road with damage, presumably from that wreck. So Houseel continues to lead now by 1.7 seconds. But Dominic, this early, getting in a wreck, you got to be looking at that and maybe thinking people were being a little bit impatient?
I absolutely think that's the case. And these 30-minute races, as opposed to some of our longer events, are really an exercise in controlled aggression where, again, you want to be able to push your car and be able to get up towards the front, but at the same time, you still have laps to work it out. So, don't worry about trying to get to the lead in the first, in the first few corners, because as they say, you can't win the race in the first lap, but you can always lose it.
Absolutely, and a lot of drivers lost it there. I can't even count how many Mustangs. So we had more than 19. Yeah, no, we had 19 Mustangs start the race, Finian, and it looks like 11 of them were involved in that turn 3 crash. So the field completely wiped out there for the Mustang category. MX-5s fared a little bit better. There was about 4 cars that were damaged in that. Brian Nauman in the number 67, Corrine Carter in the 71, off track and out of the race here early.
Yeah, and you can see too that Alessandrini is caught back up there. He's within a second of Kenneth Houseel ahead of him, and he's been catching fast. I'm surprised at Houseel's pace. It was really slow heading out at turn 1 to the bus stop there. Lost a lot of time to Alessandrini.
So if we take a look also at the Mustang field here, Finian, a lot of them are going to be coming back through the MX-5s. You see Herbst catching back up here, and he's fixed that car pretty well that has the 89, so he might be able to get some spots back if there's some misfortune up higher up in the field, but now he has to deal with 11 Miatas in front of him. Yeah,
currently he's sitting in the points. He'll at least get something out of this finish, but is going to be hoping for more as this race goes on. And again, no pit stops. There's not going to be none of that. You have to drive up all the way there.
And there was another crash here through the S's, Finian.
Whoa.
And, oh, wow.
I think that it started a little bit before that.
Yeah, John Sainz involved, and the 78 car of Michael Shea was also involved.
Yeah, that Mustang who was there, I think, got into the back of the 78. We'll see here.
Oh, the 195 was already off track. Here comes the Mustang. Is that Don Manning in the number 92?
I think so, yeah. He got into the back of the 78, and that triggered that entire crash.
But another...
Wow, and Herbst got through that as well.
Another 4-car wreck up in the top of the S's. This is we didn't really mention this being a very tricky spot here, Finian, but it really is. This is a very fast section, but I didn't expect it to be claiming this many cars early here tonight.
Yeah, and especially with the class difference, really, that's going to make it a lot worse than it is. Especially because this is where the Mustangs start to get a lot more speed than the Mazdas, so they're going to be coming at you. And a lot of these guys don't want to let off and give up that momentum, otherwise they're going to lose a lot of time.
Well, we were mentioning, Finian, how the class differences in terms of the speed was the biggest here this week that it has been, and what that means, extra closing rate. And if we look back up to the front, Alessandrini has caught Houseel, now back only 0.3 of a second, and just like last week, we'll resume where they left off.
Yeah, again, I'm really surprised that Houseel wasn't able to maintain the lead that he had over Alessandrini. He had dropped by... It was about 1.3, 1.5 seconds between them after that wreck on lap 1.
And good luck getting rid of DJ Alessandrini again. Yeah. He was given a gift with the crash through the S's.
And he's got a huge run here. I don't think he might act on it.
Oh, he's looking.
That's going to be a little bit late. Nope, dives in last second. So he's going to sit on it, but he's right there and ready to pounce on Houseel.
Absolutely. So they have a little bit of time before we see any more Mustangs coming through. You see Herbst way at the back of this picture, making his way through the Miata field. Mustangs are pretty well spread out. You can see that on the ticker, all about a couple seconds apart. But Herbst's working his way back through, being a little bit more patient. I believe Manning was the car. Yeah, Manning was the vehicle involved with that second collision there. And again, maybe just misjudged their closing rate.
Yeah, he's going to get a fast repair and get back out on the track.
The fast repairs are a gift.
Yes.
Otherwise, we'd be missing out a lot of race cars here
tonight.
tonight.
Yes, we will. Still got 29 guys, it seems, or more or less, still on the racetrack. I believe the 32 or so that we started with. So still got a lot of guys still running around, but in completely different parts of the track. And also, this is another thing too, is these Mustangs are going to be coming up. By the time this race finishes, they're going to be going through the Mazda field while they're fighting. So this is going to be interesting dynamic later on.
Well, we were talking about the S's. We talked about it being very tricky. Dominic, when you head through the S's, it's a blind corner here. So is there anything you can do as a driver when you see smoke up ahead and it's such a narrow racetrack? Is it one of those situations where you just got to slam on the brakes and hope you don't get rear-ended, or you just try to work your way through it and climb through the crash?
So, Kyle, in that situation, the best thing would probably be to look at where the flaggers are and see if they have either a caution flag or a debris flag out. And you know, in the Mars series, we're fortunate that we have a great team of flaggers who keep the drivers alerted to anything. So in the case where you have a blind turn, I would look to the flag station to see what they have to say, because they're going to have a better view than the drivers will.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, in the sim here, we don't have full course yellows available, and that probably would have been a perfect time to throw one with the track being completely blocked in a blind corner.
Yeah, especially too considering that iRacing gave the ability finally to, even if you have cautions off, you can turn it on as an admin still. But again, that was a really tough call to make, and I'm sure really quick by the time you were thinking about making the decision, the Mazda field was already coming through. So yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't get that, but everyone more or less made it through that. All right.
Well, here's my thing about the yellows issue here, Finian, is that the local yellows are effective a lot of the time. However, when the track's completely blocked, a local yellow just isn't enough.
Yeah.
You could go through there at 40 miles an hour and still not pick your way through there safely. So full course yellows would have probably been a good idea there. But obviously that didn't happen, and there's the majority of the Mustang field now has to climb through the MX-5s, and it's going to be even more chaotic than it needed to be.
Yeah, especially also probably wouldn't have liked that decision. And you see now the battle between Alessandrini and Hausil, and Alessandrini actually made the pass over Hausil recently. So Hausil now trying to chase back Alessandrini as he has been all season.
Yeah, and I guess the conditions might be favoring Alessandrini here. Let's take a look at the track temp again. 107, still been climbing. We started tonight at 98 degrees, so it's climbed up 9 degrees since the beginning of the session here, and that's might be just enough to favor Alessandrini's driving style. Battles back here in the MX-5 class for 8th and 9th, 17th and 18th overall. That's Rick Cohn and Thomas Lee in the 33 and 32 cars.
These guys currently fighting it out back here. Again, still fighting in the points, so every point matters for some of these guys.
Here comes Khalil Natirbov in the number 19, working the way up through the field.
Currently running in 10th, trying to catch Kyle Herbst ahead of him, who is actually only 4.7 seconds up the road. You see the 32 and the 33 side by side. Oh, almost dooring each other there.
Yeah, that's a very tricky corner to run side by side. You can't see very well through there. Now, the penultimate corner. The 32 of Lee being very generous and leaving lots of room.
Looks like Rick Cohn is going to get that position ahead of Thomas Lee.
Well, let's update the Mustang leaders. Paul Gibson out in front of Greg Obadia by 3 seconds.
Yeah, and he's been going fast by about 4 to 5 tenths a lap. So Gibson putting a good showing up front very early on.
And behind Obadia, Stephen Ott in the number 25 in the Marlboro Mustang. 7 seconds back from Obadia, but he's got Andrew Pelota. And Pelota, remember, Pelota spun on the exit of turn number 1, and what a blessing that turned out to be.
Yeah, that really was, because he would have been in the thick of that had he been running there. So he's currently put back in 4th place, trying to improve from that.
Alessandrini spun in the bus stop.
Spun and very
and Hausil, they both crashed in the bus stop.
I don't see any visual damage.
But here comes Paul Darling and Zach Rubin. They're going to pass both these drivers and take the lead away.
Oh, this is going to be very interesting here. You see that's Darling on the back bumper. Or sorry, that's not Darling. Is that Spicer? That's Spicer on the back bumper.
In the 56, yeah.
Spicer on the back bumper of Darling. Oh, and he's going to almost make contact with him. You see Alessandrini trying to fight on the outside as they head into the boot. And there you see the actual leader of the race, the leader of the Miata field, Zach Rubin ahead. So a lot of change up here, and there you see Hausil behind.
Yeah, let's go back and take a look at what caused this incident. And again, I got to imagine here, Finney, that there was some liberties taken with the amount of room through the bus stop chicane. Here's a look at it. And Alessandrini was trying to get around Hausil, and they just made contact on entry. We'll get a couple more angles of it so you can see We can try to place this on somebody, but again, this is probably just going to be considered a racing incident.
Yeah, again, it's a good passing zone if you can do it. But yeah, it is very hard. It's a very narrow corner, very fast corner.
All right, so well, the question is there enough room for the 191 to be there? Not really. I mean...
Yeah, I would think that would... Again, I wouldn't say that Hausiel had the corner, per se, but Alessandrini was only really by the taillights of the 23 entering, so I think he probably should have yielded. Yeah,
the 23 turned in expecting him not to stay there, and he did. So both those guys going to pay for that mistake, though, and they had a huge lead. They could afford to be a little bit aggressive, but now we have a huge battle on the front straightaway with the MX-5 class for second. Now Alessandrini side by side with Spicer trying to grab it back away.
Yeah, we saw Darling swerving down the front straightaway. There you see Hausiel go to the inside of Darling. Spicer going to give up the position to Alessandrini. Hausiel's trying to make sure he doesn't lose Alessandrini, because otherwise it can be bad for his championship hopes.
Well, as we watch this battle, I know there's going to be a lot of action going on here, but Dominic, what about corner rights? We're in the VirtualMARRS, we're talking about, we got a battle for third going on. When we talk about corner rights, is it generally getting the nose halfway up to the car next to you? Where do you draw that line when you're trying to make a clean pass?
So, Kyle, there is a very fine line when it comes to the track that each driver is entitled to, and usually the rule that we go by is if someone has a nose up in the corner and you're going side by side with that other driver, that they've earned that piece of racetrack, so you have to, either let off the throttle a little bit or give them the adequate room so you don't create an incident. But it is a bit of a gray area when it comes to where the racing room is.
So, just so I understand this correctly, as long as the car is alongside in any capacity, there has to be room given for both cars?
Yes, as long as the car that's making the move to get alongside isn't being aggressive or doing it in a place where he'd be forcing the other car to go offline, he's earned that the right to that piece of real estate.
Yeah, so again, that creates an interesting scenario for him, because you could argue that Hausiel had to give him room based on that. However, the bus stop is a tricky place to go side by side, and maybe Hausiel wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Again, there's so many factors. This is kind of one of the why. Just officialing in real life too, officials just kind of throw their hands up in the air, because it's like Dominic said, it's such a gray area. There's so many different factors about the corner itself. Can you really go side by side in a corner like that? Where were they positioned? Who had momentum? There's so many different factors that goes into who had the corner.
Yeah, and so they both rebounded to second and third. Zach Rubin trying to run away from Alessandrini right now. He's out of the draft, and that's a big deal here. So if Rubin can run away, he might be able to hang on. He's got to go for 14 more minutes. We're over halfway done. The Mustangs have separated out, but the MX-5s are close together, with a Mustang looming in the background, trying to gain some track position back.
Yeah, and you can see that the entire top six is right there in frame. And actually, notably, too, there's a Mustang lurking behind them, so this is going to be interesting as well.
So Alessandrini back up to second, Hausiel the third, Spicer and Darling nose and tail for fourth, heading up through the S's now. And then Elias Roman there, the number 99 Red Miata. Right behind him, a little bit of right side damage to that number 99.
Yeah, he got that damage after that first wreck when I believe Alessandrini got into him, trying to slow down for that.
So now we'll watch, see if Darling. Oh, here comes the Mustang. Clearly Tierboff to the inside. Oh, turns in. Does Paul Darling, but just avoids contact there. That was a close one for sure.
Yeah, and again, that's where you talk about where the Tierboff came in really fast. I imagine that Darling didn't realize that. By the time he did, he almost turned into Tierboff. Did a great job of keeping off of him, letting Tierboff have that. But yeah, here comes Tierboff. This is going to throw an interesting dynamic here, as he's got to work through this Miata field as they're battling for position.
Whew, okay, well, lots of action here tonight in the MX-5 class. And speaking of the MX-5 class, Alessandrini and Hausiel are still nose to tail for second, as they've been for most of the race, but for first. And we'll quickly jump back up to the Mustang category. Third is becoming contested with Stephen Ott and Andrew Pelota. Pelota trying to chase down that number 25.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of Pelota got a little bit of rear damage, but again, not hurting him at all. He's on a charge right now to the front, trying to get third place from Stephen Ott.
Onto the back straightaway now. Andrew Pelota has a nice slipstream, but he's going to tuck out, get out of the mirror of Stephen Ott just to make him nervous. To get down to the corner. Oh, looks like Ott's going to pull over, let him go. So Pelota goes to third.
Yeah, nice pass by that 96.
Oh, he crashes! Stephen Ott in the fence!
Wow.
And that is it for the number 25. What a shame. And it looks like he just got loose out. He kind of missed his line there through the bus stop and just put down the throttle too much and spun into the fence. So the 25 car out of the race.
That's really unfortunate. Also, one guy I want to update on is as real. Oh, actually, no, here's the battle.
We're going to go back to the MX5 lead. Alessandrini has caught Zach Rubin right on the tail, heading up through the S's. Alessandrini's going to be very aggressive here. Can he get by the number 7? He's got Khalil Naturbov and a Mustang behind him, side by side for the Miata lead. Here we go, 3 wide through the S's for a moment. Naturbov backs out. Now we're side by side. We're going to go 3 wide again.
I think he probably will go 3 wide.
3 wide.
Yeah, he's got the speed to get around there before they head to the bus stop, and there he goes. So now Alessandrini going to slip in behind, get a little bit of slipstream, and get ahead of Rubin. There you see him go ahead right there.
Wow. Chaotic moment, but Naturbov is through all the MX5 traffic. Now the battle is on for second between Rubin and Hausil. See the dust kicking up back there with some cars offline.
Rubin really put in a lot of turn in on the exit of the bus stop there. Got almost sideways trying to get the car to rotate. But here we see Hausil, and that's
Francois Brou stopped. This is the entrance to the boot here, Finney. This is a bad place for him to be stopped right on the racing line.
And I can imagine he's waiting for these guys. Wow, a lot of guys almost hit him.
Yeah, this is a really bad spot to be sitting prone. Now he's going to reverse right into the 99. And Roman, does he get damage from that?
No, I think he got very close to it, but wow, that was that was timed to a T. Wow, can we go on gearbox for the 69?
Here we go. Oh, man.
So you can see how close. So then right here,
he starts reversing right into the back of the 99.
Wow, that was incredible.
And here's another look at it, the reversing process. We'll go back and take a look at what put him in this situation. Wow.
Oh.
That'd be a scary moment for the number 99.
I'm sure he had a heart attack or 2.
And this is the corner I said, Finney. This is an underrated corner here at Watkins Glen. Let's see what happens. Maybe just too much brake. Gets on, yep, wheel hops it into the corner, spins it out, and gets stuck on the curb there, and that's what took him so long to get it righted. So Francois Brou has some work to do, and now he's got to chase down Mustangs and get them all passed over all over again.
Yeah, he's currently sitting in 9th again. At least we'll get some points out of this finish, but probably a lot less than he would have hoped for.
Yeah, so anyway, we'll head back up, look at who's back out front. Alessandrini and Hausil. This is why you say they can afford to race each other a little bit more aggressively because of their pace, but Zach Rubin's still right behind Hausil.
Yeah, and he's not going to be letting go that easily from these guys, so he's going to try to work with Hausil, or not work with him, but staying behind him as Hausil tries to chase down Alessandrini.
Dominic, are you surprised at the amount of carnage we've had today? It seems like these drivers are extra antsy to be passing, and they're making moves work in pretty scary places. Is that taking you by surprise, or is that just par for the course on a track like Watkins Glen?
So I think that all the drivers came in here knowing that this was only going to be a 30-minute event, so they wanted to get to the front as quick as they could, and sometimes, unfortunately, that results in people being aggressive and trying to make moves in places where it's a little bit questionable. So I think that's, I think it was just a case of, trying to, do the best you could in the opening laps instead of waiting till later in the race.
Absolutely. So John Sainz in the 195 has spun out in the bus stop. We'll get another look at this incident. He's been there for a while, actually. All by himself here. And just, actually clipped the wall on corner edge. That's a weird place to crash.
I think it's turned in a lot. Oh, yeah, we turned it way too early.
Yeah, turned it in. Oh, I got loose under the brakes and hit the fence to the right of the curb and spun around. So John Sainz with significant damage to that car. Okay, let's head back up quickly, give you an update on the Mustangs. We haven't talked a whole lot about them tonight because it's been pretty calm up here since the start. Paul Gibson now leads by 3.2 seconds over Greg Obadia. Then you got to look 11 seconds back to find Andrew Pelota. It'd be a pretty good points day, and it almost started off horribly as he spun in turn 1, but that saved him from the massive crash we had up through the top of the S's. Look at Dave Fitzgerald running in 5th right now. This is a great run for that number 91 car.
Yeah, and speaking of points, too, one guy who's really suffering, or will be suffering in the points, is Jeff Jacobs, all the way back in 15th in class. He's weighed 25th overall. So he's going to be getting no points for today, and he's currently 2nd in the championship. That's really going to hurt him.
Here's an update on the number 33 of Rick Cohn, and into the bus stop chicane. Jumps to curb here, gets loose, and you see John Sainz on the inside, but Rick Cohn spins out and hits the fence and destroys that car. So that's going to be a huge hit in the running order for that number 33.
Yeah, he was doing so well, too. And now he will drop down the order. So unfortunate for that 33 car.
Well, back up to the MX5 class here, Finian and Nose to Tail, Alessandrini and Hausil. I don't know how many times we've said their names, but they're just always putting on a show.
Yeah, definitely so. Because I mean, you really can't talk about one without the other. They've been running with each other all season long. There you see Houseel with a huge draft at the exit.
And he's going to go for a pass on the inside of Alessandrini. The last time they tried this, it didn't work. Alessandrini yields this time, and Houseel will go to the lead. All right, about 6.5 minutes remaining here, Finian. We're getting down to crunch time.
There's definitely going to be crunch time for this class in particular. Not so much for the Mustangs. They're way too spread out at the moment, so they're going to pretty much finish where they run, if any, unless something were to happen to them. But this is where the action is going to be at in the Miata class.
Kyle Herbst in the number 89 has rebounded to 6th after being involved in that collision in the S's on lap number 1, so a good run for him. Chip Miller in the number 14 running 7th, and Khalil Natirbov has also rebounded by climbing through the entire MX5 field, and not actually, there was a couple scary moments, but Natirbov has gotten through there without any incident, and now running a nice solid top 10, so good rebound for the number 19 as well.
Yeah, he's going to have to settle in for 8th, though, as the next car in class is 20 seconds ahead of him. Here we see Francis Brew in
Francois Brew. Took you 4 tries, but we'll take it.
Francois Brew in the 69. He's currently in 9th and really behind the rest of the field, so he's going to have to settle for that position.
And there was the moment there. That was the 99 that he almost backed into after spinning out down into the entrance of the boot. Houseel and Alessandrini coming to what should be about 3 laps to go for these guys. Maybe 4. Out of... Ooh, wow, look at them using all the curb on exit. And Ruben staying close if anything happens. I think that's all Ruben can do. And Dominic, when you're coming down, you're 3rd place. You see the leaders up ahead. We talked about this last week, but at Watkins Glen, I mean, it's a little bit wider racetrack than VIR. So if you're Zach Ruben, you're 3rd place, and the 2 leaders are fighting, would you want to stay back and hope they crash, or you want to get up there and try to pass them yourself?
So at this moment, I think the smartest thing for Zach Ruben to do would be to try to get as close to them as he can, because as we mentioned, this is such a slipstream track that the draft is really effective. Now, if the 2 up ahead decide to do a little bit too much jostling for things and ends up having something happen, that's obviously going to play into his favor, so being close could be a disadvantage. So he's going to, I think right now he's in a comfortable spot, but he's going to have to, I think, get a little bit closer now if he wants to have a chance of battling for 2nd or 1st.
Leaders side by side in the MX5 category. Houseel and Alessandrini door to door through the bus stop again. Looks like Alessandrini will have to back out, and Houseel takes the lead away. And Finian, these guys almost got together down into turn 1, but they're nose to tail, and Alessandrini is being very aggressive, trying to get back around to the inside through the carousel.
Yeah, I don't know if it came up on the audio, but I let out an audible noise. I thought that they were gonna hit each other again in turn 1, but they didn't somehow. But Alessandrini, you can see the aggression picked up all the way to the back bumper of that 23.
Yeah, he's really on it right now. Houseel's gonna have to defend here. Will Alessandrini look to the inside? Nope. Houseel does a great job defending that corner, keeps Alessandrini from sticking his nose, and now we're in the toe of the boot. Watch the curb, DJ, as we come up off the corner, get that throttle down and try to draft him down the straight.
Yeah, I mean, he does have some time to work with here because he's right behind Houseel. He just needs to build up that draft down the back straight, and I think that's really where we're seeing these guys make those passes in this class with that draft. There you see Alessandrini get all the way up to the back bumper of Houseel, trying to put some pressure on him and make the 23 make a mistake.
Houseel pulls ahead a little bit. You see Ruben closing in now. About 0.6 of a second behind DJ, and that's close enough for a draft.
Yeah, I was going to say he's well within drafting range now. So, and I think it's because these guys have been fighting each other that he's been able to work with it and get back up there. So a new player has appeared here in this final battle.
And a fight for 4th between Spicer and Darling. They're nose to tail as well. They've been fighting for the majority of the race, but we don't want to pull away from the leaders here. Houseel and Alessandrini nose to tail. They've swapped positions a couple times, as they have in weeks past. Ruben using every inch of racetrack on the exit of that final corner.
Yeah, and he knows he's there, and he knows he can get a run, but he needs to be close enough to do it. And there you see Alessandrini to the inside of Houseel as they head into turn 1.
Side by side for the lead down into turn 1. A great passing opportunity. Alessandrini takes a ton of curb. He's going to run wide on exit. Look at Ruben taking advantage of all the
left tire marks
too. Yeah.
Left tire marks on how aggressive he was running. Houseel was trying to take a better exit to build up a run, but here we see Spicer and Darling fighting for position.
Up through the S's now, nose to tail for 3rd place. And we're going to stick with this for a second, but the leaders, Alessandrini, Houseel, pretty tight as well.
And does Ruben decide to make the pass here? He's going to stay in behind Houseel. And yeah, he's going to wait, so smart move there by that 7.
Well, look at Alessandrini wheeling it through here. What about Spicer and Darling? They're going to stay nose to tail as well, following that Marlboro Mustang. It's the number 48 car of James Saffel. Is head back up to the front of the MX-5s again. Man, we've been putting a lot of cameras on these guys today, but they're the ones putting on a heck of a show, Finian.
Yeah, they have indeed. They've been fighting. It's gone back and forth between them all day long. But let's go up to the overall leaders to find out where they're running.
Through the bus stop here. So next time through, we should be getting the white flag, but it might actually... Yep, that'll be... Next time by, we'll get the white flag. So Paul Gibson about halfway done with the lap, as nose to tail again at MX-5's, House-Seal and Alessandrini.
Yeah, again, three-way battle for the lead here in the closing stages of this race in the MX-5 class.
House-Seal looked for a moment, but he'll tuck in behind Alessandrini as we roll through turn number 8.
You can see House-Seal following, pretty much mirroring Alessandrini at the moment, tucked up right behind him. Again, it's all about tactics. You stay right up against the guy in front of you, and just try to force him to make a mistake. There you see Alessandrini make a mistake, goes wide on the exit of the boot.
Now down into the penultimate corner. House-Seal right behind. Will he take a look down into the final corner? It's a great passing opportunity if you can get it done. Look at Alessandrini. Misses turn-in point just a little bit, but he still makes it to the apex, back onto the front straight. And they'll still have 2 laps to go here, Finian.
Yeah, 2 laps to go indeed, so still time to be had here, but they're not going to wait a second. And there we see House-Seal now look to the inside of Alessandrini in turn 1.
Back down to the inside. They've switched their passing zone from the bus stop to turn 1. Door to door, almost making contact. Alessandrini is way wide, as is Zach Rubin. Up through the S's now side by side, but it looks like Alessandrini will clear House-Seal.
And let's actually look on board from Rubin. We'll see how much he's closing in. And it doesn't look like much, but definitely he's going to get the biggest draft between these 3.
Side by side, you see House-Seal to the outside. Here he goes. This is a race down to the bus stop. It's a drag race between the front 2. Rubin is close if something happens, as Paul Gibson behind him has taken the overall white flag side by side through the bus stop. It didn't work last time, but they make it work this time. House-Seal back to the lead. Contact on exit, and House-Seal spins. Alessandrini gets into House-Seal. House-Seal spins around in the carousel.
And he's going to potentially lose 3rd and 4th, and yep, 3rd and 4th as they go past him. So House-Seal down to 5th place. Rubin is our leader, and Alessandrini has to chase him within a lap and a half.
And I'm sure Alessandrini is not happy with how that turned out, but I think he got pinched on exit. Let's quickly, very briefly, go back, take a look at that replay, because I don't know if this was completely Alessandrini's fault on corner exit here. I think House-Seal ran him out of racetrack. Yep.
Yeah, and that's not entirely House-Seal's fault. Just really pushing, unfortunately, was a little bit too much and forced the 191 off the track. And yeah, Alessandrini had no control over that.
Absolutely. So looks like House-Seal will drop back to 5th. Meanwhile, Paul Gibson is negotiating some traffic. He's on the last lap for the Mustang category. Greg Obadia 4.2 seconds behind. Not going to be a threat. Gibson has been perfect from the start of this race. And I believe started on pole as well. Yeah, he started on pole, kept it out of the dirt on lap 1 when the rest of the field got compiled behind him. And now he's just got to complete a couple more corners, and he'll be victorious here at Watkins Glen.
Solid day from Gibson. Quiet day for him, as he has had to fight pretty much no one since the first few corners. Obadia has been pretty much at the same gap behind him the entire race. He's been pretty much on a Sunday drive here on a Wednesday night.
Through the final couple corners, Paul Gibson got pole here, and I don't think we realized how important starting position would be. But Paul Gibson rolls through the final couple corners, and Paul Gibson, the number 31, is going to be your Mustang class winner here at Watkins Glen, but there's a battle for the MX-5s behind him as the checkered flag flies for the Mustangs. We're nose to tail with Rubin and Alessandrini up through the S's. Rubin goes defensive, but this is going to be a brawl.
And they're approaching a Mustang, I believe, at a pretty fast rate too, so may or may not come into play here. And there's also two Mustangs approaching from behind.
Here comes Alessandrini to the inside. Can Rubin defend? He can't get there in time. We're going to be side by side through the bus stop again if no one yields.
Let's see, does Rubin yield?
Oh, not. He's going to have to. Alessandrini to the lead. I don't think Rubin's got enough to get back to him.
Yeah, I don't think so here. That might have been the pass right there, but we'll see what happens as the lap goes on.
Side by side behind him for 3rd. Paul Darling around the outside of Richard Spicer through the bus stop, but Spicer crosses him back over, gets the door slammed on him through the carousel.
Yeah, he tried to put a nose in there, just couldn't get it done. Darling cuts him off, and he's going to hold 3rd place at the moment.
Down into the boot now.
No change for the lead. It's expanded out to a half a second gap between Rubin and Alessandrini. Here comes Spicer on the back bumper of Darling.
Mustangs completing. Dave Fitzgerald will come home in 5th place in that number 91. A great result for him, but Paul Darling and Richard Spicer continue to battle for 3rd in the MX5 class behind. Oh, look at Paul Darling slow. Spicer runs wide into the grass. He's going to be passing the grass on the outside. He's going to be slow and have to pull back in behind Paul Darling.
Yeah, Spicer set up a better exit, much better exit than Darling, as you saw there, but Darling cut him off, and Spicer had nowhere to go. So Spicer had to back out of that. He still has a few more corners. If he's brave enough, he might have a shot here.
2 more corners left for these MX5s. Paul Darling in 3rd, Richard Spicer in 4th. Can they swap one more time in the final 2 corners out onto the curbing?
Spicer really has to throw it into the corners here if he wants to try to catch Darling.
Don't think he's going to get there. DJ Alessandrini will win in the MX5 category. Zach Rubin will finish 2nd. But 3rd will go to Paul Darling after an amazing last lap battle. Richard Spicer will finish 4th, and Ken Hausiel will come home in 5th place. That's a huge disappointment for that 23 team.
Yeah, I can imagine he's definitely going to be disappointed with that finish. See, some guy's doring.
Yeah, Dennis Barrett bouncing off the fence. That was for 10th place in the Mustang class. Cameron Bidwell gets it, though, but Dennis Barrett in the number 83 will take home the 11th place. Okay, well, another incredible finish here at Watkins Glen as the rest of the field comes back across the start-finish line. Paul Gibson, again, your winner in Mustangs. And Alessandrini will continue his sweep of the MX5 category in dramatic fashion with a crash coming, I believe, with 2 laps to go.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a lot more dramatic than he would have liked it to be, but he'll take the win nonetheless.
Don Manning completing his race as well as Louis Alessi in the number 43 coming around the final corner.
A lot of these guys are going to be disappointed with their races. Pretty much over after only 3 turns.
Yeah, again, that crash at the top of the S is claiming the majority of drivers here at Watkins Glen so far, but they're pulling in and ending their night. We'll be back in a couple moments with our race winners and a few others. It was a crazy race at Watkins Glen. Stay with us to hear the driver's point of view. Welcome back live here to Sim TV. We're here with the second place Mustang finisher, Greg Obadia. Greg, that was a pretty wild race going on behind you, but you ended up to finish second after a pretty crazy start to the race. So just walk us through that initial start, the chaos behind you, and the rest of your race trying to chase down Paul Gibson.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying my name the way that I say it, which isn't necessarily the correct way. But yeah, we qualified fourth, which I was pretty happy about. This new evolving environment thing it threw my setup was no good from what I'd practiced on Monday. But yeah, we're coming up 4 wide, and we got to the S's. And somehow I was third place, just trailing, I guess it was Chip. And Chip didn't know I was there, came across, and that started, I think, a giant crash behind us. He came across my front, had my nose in his door, and then he rolled off of me. And that started the gap to me and Paul. And then just my few little mistakes here and there made the distance a little bit greater over time of the race.
Did you feel like the race only being 30 minutes contributed to the aggressiveness? Because we saw throughout the MX-5 field as well, the leaders actually took each other out at one point. It seemed like the aggression factor was much higher this week than it has been in weeks past.
I can't speak to that because I was, staring at Paul from like 2 to 4 seconds the whole race. That beginning thing, I think that was just a mistake. That corner, or my corner into his corner. But no, actually, turn 1 went really well. I think everybody gave everybody room in turn 1, at least for the Mustangs.
Yeah, the Mustangs actually did turn 1 pretty well. Just the top of the S's where it got all carnaged up there. But Greg, thanks for talking to us. It was a pleasure talking with you, and a nice solid second place finish for you this week.
Thanks, guys. I enjoyed it. You guys do a great job all the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Greg. Have a good night. Next, we're going to talk to 4th place Mustang finisher Dave Fitzgerald. Actually, did he jump back up to the booth? Yeah. We'll steal him back away for a minute. Or do you want to skip him? We'll skip him? All right. Oh, hey, he's there. Hey, Dave, how you doing? All right.
Good. How are you?
We're doing great. It was a crazy race out there for sure. It started right on lap number 1 with the Mustangs, but you managed to get through us, walk us through that opening lap and then the rest of the race.
Well, to be honest, it was I was starting so far back that I think that was my only saving grace for not getting in that melee. The coming up over that hill, I started seeing people doing some tank slappers, and then a lot of sparks. And I was able to pull up just behind, I think, Khalil, and I was just sitting there, and it was almost just I couldn't believe that everything was happening around me and nothing was happening to me. So I just sat there with my eyes closed, I think, for about 5 seconds, and then I finally got it into gear and took off again, and slowly just clawed my way back. I know I must have picked up 4 or 5 spots from that little crash, but it was a tough race. My rig, for some reason, I had a stuck throttle, and a couple of times I just kept on going through the corner, which was not cool. But that was a good race. And then near the end, I was chasing down Chris Harp, and eventually got around him for 4th place.
Absolutely. Do you feel like the dynamic skies played any factor on this race? Because we did see the track temp climb about 10 degrees from qualifying. So does that throw your line off at all? Did that mess with your braking points?
Not so much braking points, but just handling in general. I think it was more like 20 degrees. I think I heard my little digital crew chiefs tell me that the temp was 90 degrees in qualifying, and it was 110 almost near the end of the race. So we picked up quite a bit of heat, and the car, felt it. It really felt kind of slow and lethargic.
Absolutely. But again, a great finish for you today. 4th place, you got to be pretty happy with how that all ended up, huh?
Absolutely. From the way it started, way back, and I think 12th, I'll take 4th any day.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure talking to you, Dave, and hopefully we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, we'll move on now to the MX-5 category, and it'll be race winner DJ Alessandrini. And hey, DJ, it's SimTV. You got a copy?
Hey guys, what's up?
Well, it's not much. We just watched an incredible race in the Mustangs and in the MX-5s. Now, let's start with lap number 1, because you guys came up to the top of the S's and absolutely had a roadblock that you all navigated pretty well considering the circumstances. So first of all, just walk us through that whole lap 1 incident.
So Ken got a good start. I was on the inside leaving qualifying, which was convenient. But he got a good jump, so I just tucked in behind him. And then I got a good exit coming out of 1. So I was like, well, I'm going to fight Ken for this and put some pressure on him, kind of set the pace of the race. And I was on his side, and we came up over the hill, and Mustangs were saying, Miata's choke up because, there's a wreck. And I'm like, I've seen some wrecks on iRacing before, and I know Ken's not going to choke up, so pedal to the metal. And then we crest the hill, and there was a roadblock, and I was like, okay, there's a gap in the middle that me and Ken will both fit in. I'm not lifting. He's not lifting. So I'm just going to keep going. And then a Mustang on the inside decided to drive perpendicular across the track. So then I had the super choke up, and I dropped all the way back to 6. I dropped back quite a few positions, and then I had some fun working my way back up to Ken. So, and then the internet kind of spun Ken. I was being aggressive, but that's kind of, that's kind of the average between me and Ken. But I had like 6 inches from my bumper to his bumper, and the internet kind of said Ken was going around. So I stopped for Ken just because, I don't want to win like that. And then we started moving again. And then later in the race, this is the chronicles of DJ and Ken. Later in the race, we were going through the chicane side by side, and he thought he lost me in the middle of the chicane, and he didn't. I was still there, and he was pushing me off track, and I knew that was going to be a cut penalty. So I'm pushing back, trying to get onto the track, and ended up spinning Ken and got a cut penalty. So then I had to chase down Zach on my last lap. It was a fun race for me. Very chaotic. There was no downtime.
Definitely no downtime indeed. We were watching you battle with Ken back and forth, and obviously there's some give and take. In recent weeks, you guys have been racing extremely clean, but had a couple run-ins today. But does that change your mindset going forward? Does that change how you guys race each other, or was that just eventually going to happen kind of scenario today?
I think how aggressive we race each other, it's only a matter of time until one of us comes out on a bad end of some kind of door-to-door action. So.
Absolutely. But again, swept, I believe, every single MX-5 race this season, so you got to be pretty proud of how this season's going for you.
So far, I still got to win Summit, and then it'll be a perfect season.
All right, DJ. Well, thanks for talking to us again and walking us through that first lap. It was chaotic watching. I think we had you on screen for probably 50% of the broadcast tonight battling with Ken, so it's fun watching you guys fight it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
No problem. Have a great night.
Great time.
Next, we're going to talk to Zach Rubin in the number 7 MX-5. And Zach Rubin was our second place finisher in the MX-5 category. Zach, a lot of chaos out there tonight. And there was a couple incidents with the leaders, but you ultimately came home in second place after a last lap pass from DJ Alessandrini. Walk us through your race.
Well, it started off with that lap 1 incident. We heard it from Jeff Jacobs that there's incidents at the top of the hill. After I cleared one of the Mustangs, one of the guys behind me clipped me in the front. So I really didn't have any aero going in there. I mean, I was surprised I was able to stay in the draft with DJ at the start. But then I noticed it once he started pulling away, once we were second and third. Going into that left-hander downhill, one of the guys punted me a bit, so I had damage in the front and back now. And then whatever incident happened with DJ and Ken at the first couple of laps, I had no idea. I didn't realize I was in the lead because I was just by myself the entire time. And then all of a sudden I look at my rear view, and here comes a whole pack of DJ, Ken, and 4th and 5th.
Well, let's talk about the last couple laps there. Did you think you had anything to hold off DJ if maybe the race was a lap shorter or two?
No, I had nothing for him. I tried to stay behind them as best as I could, because I saw them, they were constantly battling. So I was hoping, well, maybe they might shove each other wide. I'll be able to sneak and get a last lap pass. But once I saw DJ climbing up on me, I'm like, nothing I could do. I tried to hang in with the Mustang that came out of the pits last lap. Wasn't able to stay with him, and DJ was able to get me on that front straight.
Well, it was an incredible battle you had there with DJ and Ken, but came home one spot short. Thanks for talking to us, Zach, and hopefully you can be one spot better next week.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a great night. All right, and last but not least, are we missing anybody? I think that was... Oh, we have to talk to Ken still. Let's talk to Ken first. Hey, Ken, how's you? Got a copy?
Yes.
All right, well, another week and another finish there. You probably should have been a little bit higher up. Obviously, there was some contact between you and DJ a couple times tonight. And then that last one took you back in the pack a little bit. Walk us through first that lap 1 incident, and then the couple other incidents from there on out.
So the lap 1 incident was really interesting. We're coming down through turn 1, and Jeff Jacobs in the Mustang is like, "Hey, hold up, guys! There's a big wreck, and track's blocked, blah 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 blah." So we're coming up the hill, and yellow flags are up, and I check up a little bit, and I go up over the crest, and it's like, "Oh, look, there's Mustangs all over the place." And thankfully, the one guy planned his move well and moved out of the way, and I dodged him to the right. It didn't look like some of the guys behind me made it through, unfortunately.
Well, what about those other accidents there with DJ Alessandrini? I know you guys race really close all the time, so this is just a matter of time kind of thing. But if you were to go back and replay any of those incidents over again, would you do anything different?
The first one, I don't think I did anything really wrong. It seemed like a network issue, but just a little bit of lag or something. But the second one, I mean, I missed the curb on the left side in a big slide there, and ran out of room. And I honestly thought DJ had pulled back, but he didn't, and ended up spinning. Oh well.
All right, Ken. Well, thanks for talking to us, and hopefully you can finally get your win next week. You've been flirting with it for a while, and you'll get there at some point. Thanks for talking to us. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
You too. All right, and now we're going to talk to our overall race winner, Paul Gibson, the driver of the number 31. Paul, pole turned out to be a really, really good place to start tonight with what was going on behind you. Walk us through that first lap, what you saw in your mirror, and then the rest of the race. I don't know if we have Paul. I don't hear anything coming out of Paul there, but let's see. Hey, Paul Gibson, you got a copy? Looks like we don't have Paul. Well, I guess that'll wrap it up for tonight here, Finian, but I don't know, I wish we could talk to Paul Gibson about that, because he drove away with it and ran away from Andrew Pelota, who spun out on that first lap. And Dominic as well. Dominic, I wanted to talk to you real quick before we go off air here about the race tonight was 30 minutes. It was real short, and I think that created a lot of carnage out here tonight. But we head next week to the Daytona 2.4, a similar racetrack in that it's very fast, very draft heavy. How do you think the drivers will race there next week? And your mic is also muted. I might want to let you know that. There you go.
Thank you. So Daytona next week is going to be interesting because it's almost like 2 different circuits with the oval and then the infield. So drivers are going to want to set up their car well, of course, for the oval to get the maximum straight line speed. So you want to make your car as slippery as you can. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're getting good rotation through the infield, because you have transitions through the international horseshoe. And then from the transition from the infield to the banking is going to be crucial as well, to make sure you carry as much momentum there. So it's going to be cool to see how the cars behave there. And as we've seen with events like the Rolex 24, there's a lot of factors that go into having your car run well at Daytona. And sometimes just due to the abusive nature that the track puts on the different vehicles, it can be some cars have trouble making it to the end. So we'll see what happens, but I think it'll be a new and interesting challenge for the drivers going into next week.
All right. Thanks you, Dominic, again for being with us here tonight. Finian, another fantastic race here. And as the sun continues to streak across the sky, I got to say the weather seemed to have played a little bit of a role in this as well. We heard Dave mention how much slicker the track got as it heated up. It was, again, a fantastic race.
Yeah, really good racing from a lot of these guys. Hard racing, especially in the Miata class between Alessandrini and Hausil for the win. But unfortunately, Hausil got the bad end of that, finished down in 5th. Hopefully he can rebound next week at Daytona.
His time is coming, I'll tell you. That 23 car is fast every single week. But another great race here for the VirtualMARRS Racing Series, the Washington, D.C. component of the Sports Car Club of America. We'll be back next week. Don't miss next week, guys. It's a 2.4-hour race. We're going to be driving into the night next week. So it'll be the day-to-night transitions from Daytona International Speedway, the Roval. And I don't know exactly if they've made up their minds on what car classes we're going to see, but it's going to be a fun combination either way. So it'll be 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time next week, live on SimTV. The stream link is already up. Go take a look at that on our channel and subscribe if you're not. All sim racing content here on SimTV. Thanks a lot. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.